One of the biggest issues in politics, and I've never really understood why this issue seems to be so important to both sides, it's the issue of abortion. Now, to be completely fair, both sides of the political aisle, they use abortion to their advantage. One of the many problems with the current two-party system we have in America, it doesn't reflect real life. It doesn't reflect everyday life. Everything in politics is presented as black and white, when in reality, the circumstances surrounding the decisions that we make are rarely in black and white. If you're a conservative, the expectation is that you're against abortion. Doesn't matter if it's 6 months, 6 weeks, hell, 6 hours. You're supposed to be against it. If you're a parishioner of Woke United Methodist, you're expected to fight for a woman's right to choose. That narrative, it always confused me. They frame this narrative that they're fighting for women's rights, but what about the rights of the female babies? Who is fighting for their rights? Now, me personally, I could not care less about abortion. Why? Because I'm never going to have one. I know that is a controversial thing to say for those who believe in the good word and spend their days spreading the faith instead of getting a real job. But the truth is, this issue is something that has no effect on me. I will never be put in that tough position. And it's not because I'm using a foolproof birth control. It's not because I'm the same age as Nikki Haley, which I'm not, and just past my gestational prime. Contrary to the belief of the shit fucks, I will never be faced with this decision because I don't have the ability to get pregnant. It's not possible. However, abortion seems to be a very important issue to our beloved yentas on The View. Oh, our beauty queens and the whoopee cushion. I really don't understand why this issue is so important to America's worst representation of womanhood. 80% of the panel on this show shares a commonality with me. The inability to get pregnant. Donnie Lemon, he would describe them as being past their prime. There was a gigantic void yesterday morning on The View, which, by the way, the title of this show has always confused me. The View? The view of what? There's only one view offered on this show, the wrong view. This show only appeals to lonely women who choose to identify as feminist and aspiring plastic surgeons looking to make it to the top of their field. Now, I rarely give credit to this show, but I have got to give credit to these doctors. They are the best in the business. These brilliant surgeons, they have found a way to make an 80-year-old Joy Behar appear to be 75 years old. It's absolutely amazing. The makeup team, also outstanding. They're fantastic. Yesterday morning, Sunny Hostin was looking extra radiant. Sun, she's my personal favorite, Asuncion. Beautiful smile that lights up a room clouded with toxic mouth farts. Sunny Hostin's one of those people that you never want to get into a one-on-one conversation with. We all have someone like the radiant Sun in our personal lives. Those people who talk a lot, they speak a lot of words without saying a fucking thing. You're 5 minutes into the conversation, you're asking yourself, what is the quickest way to escape this conversation? Oh, look, there's a window. Let's jump. Anyway, there was a gigantic void yesterday morning on The View. I once again found myself watching a painfully boring segment of this garbage. I see AFG, Alyssa the Farrah Griffin. She's playing her role to perfection. She's talking, no one is listening. Minute or two later, I hear the familiar sounds of the flatulating whoopee cushion. Couple of seconds after that, there's not a single hair left in my nose. The blonde was there. She was there yesterday morning. I can never remember her name. ABC, I think they keep her there for diversity reasons. I mean, she's the only blonde on the show. But something was missing. Where in the hell was Big Red? Where was Joy Behar? I noticed that ABC was using a single camera setup. They weren't having to use multiple cameras to ensure the massive Superdome was being shown to the lonely women at home. For some reason, Big Red was riding the pine yesterday. She was on the bench yesterday morning. They had to bring in a relief yenta who goes by the name Ann Navarro. Navarro is kind of equivalent to a closer in Major League Baseball. They bring her in when Joy Behar is exhausted from running off their dwindling audience. Yesterday morning, special guest on The View was Nancy Mace. Casey, who in the hell's Nancy Grace? No. It's not the crazy lady with the strong southern accent who used to scream at the 2 or 3 people watching her on HLN, the sister dump to the real dump, CNN. Nancy Mace is a congresswoman from South Carolina. She's a Republican, but that really doesn't mean much these days. I mean, Alyssa the Farrah Griffin claims to be a Republican. There are a lot of pretenders in this party. Hell, Lindsey Graham, he has been pulling double duty as a pretender. For decades, he has been trying to convince people that he's into conservatism and women. Now, I don't know anything about Nancy Mace, so I'm willing to give her the benefit of the doubt. I'm already questioning her judgment, though, because she agreed to go on The View. The topic of conversation was abortion. 6 women arguing about abortion. 5 of these women will never have to make that decision themselves. Now, I will give Nancy Mace credit. She made a great point. She claimed that both parties are too stubborn on this issue. It's the same thing I said earlier. One is staunchly against it. The other side wants no limits set on it, which is ironic when you think about it. Deacons at Woke United Methodist, they want limits on everything. They want to limit your free speech. They want to limit the amount of money you can make. They want to control social media. But when it comes to issues like abortion and the southern border, those limits suddenly vanish. Who says 7 months is too late? Open that southern border. Give us access to millions of potential voters that we can indoctrinate. For a minute or two, the conversation was peaceful. Matter of fact, it was actually surprising. Nancy Mace was allowed to speak, and she wasn't being interrupted. Now, of course, that didn't last long. Once she poked a hole in the whoopee cushion, the toxic air swept the room. The bitterness filled the air as Whoopi Goldberg was once again emotionally bothered by common sense and logic, 2 things that are not allowed on the set of The View. The Yentas, they just can't get a firm grasp on common sense and logic. Watch it for yourself.
Do you want the government telling you how to raise your family?
I don't want the government, but
shouldn't we all be able to say, listen, because the law says no law says you have to have an abortion. There's no law on the books that says you have to have an abortion. Isn't that my choice?
And you can't say on one hand, at some point, but you don't want the government in the room between the doctor and the woman, but those who want the government to pay for it has the government in the room with the doctor and the woman. So you can't have it both ways.
No.
There is California and New York, it's all the way up until 9 months. Other states.
No, but let's stop that.
100%.
No one, no doctor, no hospital, no one will take a baby at 9 months for an abortion. I also am pro-life. I want everybody to have a safe life. I want them to be safe and do all the things that they should be able to do. But when it comes to what is best for my family and I, why isn't that my choice and my doctor's choice without bringing anyone else in? And by the way, just because I'm poor doesn't mean the government doesn't have a responsibility to me as well.
First of all, did I just hear the cushion ask Nancy Mace if she wanted the government raising her children? Correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't this the same show that demonized Ron DeSantis for stopping teachers from indoctrinating children? Last I checked, the public school system's still being run by the federal government. It shouldn't be, but it is. So let me get this straight. When it comes to teaching children about the removed cucumber, that's okay, that's acceptable. But when it comes to the government overturning Roe versus Wade, which would give children the chance to be indoctrinated, that's no bueno. I don't understand how they don't see the blatant hypocrisy here. They either don't see it or they don't care. These people want the government involved in everything, except when it comes to abortion and the southern border. All of a sudden, they want the government out of their personal business. Also, Whoopi Goldberg claims to be pro-life. How can you be pro-life and go on national television and advocate for abortion, pro-choice? I mean, I get what she's trying to say here. She's trying to say that she doesn't agree with it personally, but she wants other women to have the right to choose for themselves, which is fine. But the Yentas, they have framed this narrative that the overturning of Roe versus Wade is preventing women from making that choice, when the reality is All the overturning of Roe versus Wade did was give the option back to the states where it belongs. And let's get to this other false notion being pushed by The View. No one is performing late-term abortions. Oh, really? If I remember correctly, about 10 years ago, maybe longer than that, about 10 years ago, there was a doctor in Pennsylvania. He was sentenced to life in prison. Matter of fact, I think he got 3 life terms for doing exactly that. According to the New York Times, less than 2% of abortions happen after 21 weeks, and less than 1% happen after 6 months. Now, obviously, these cases are very rare, but they are happening. Towards the end of the clip, Whoopi Goldberg claimed that the federal government has a responsibility to take care of poor people. That's part of the problem. We have the federal government taking care of far too many people. You want to know how to keep people poor, or as the Yentas would call them, marginalized? You want to know how to keep them in that position? Now you got to remember, these are supposedly the same people that the women on The View are fighting for. You want to know how to keep them from succeeding? Get them reliant on the government. There is nothing free in this world. When you cash those government checks, you're paying a price. You're sacrificing your ambition. You're sacrificing your natural drive to succeed for pennies. And did you notice how quiet Sunny Hostin was during that segment? Did you notice that? I only showed you part of the clip, but that segment ran for about 5 minutes. Asuncion was silent. She wouldn't even bless our screens with a radiant smile. Why? Believe it or not, Sun is very, very religious. Well, KC, we already knew that. She's a platinum member at Woke United Methodist. Yeah. Asuncion is responsible for providing the sunlight to boost the growth of the woke oak tree, but she's also a believer in the real God. I think Sunny Hostin is a staunch Catholic. Catholics, they are very, very strict when it comes to abortion. If you're Catholic, there's only one choice to be made here. You have the baby. I would imagine that is the reason Sunny Hostin exercised her right to remain silent during this segment. She can't go on national television and speak out against this. That would anger the deacons at Woke United Methodist. So Sunny Hostin just sits there and contributes nothing. I mean, not a bad job if you can get it. Get paid millions of dollars to not contribute. Kind of sounds like some modern NBA players where they want supermax contracts to play 25% of the regular season. But give me your thoughts here. Whoopi Goldberg gets animated on The View again. She's pointing fingers at a sitting Congresswoman. She's staunchly defending her right to choose when, at 67 years old, she really doesn't have a choice to make here. What do you guys think about abortion? I've never asked you that. What do you think about it? Let me know. Sound off in the comments below. Like, subscribe, share the video. I appreciate each one of you guys and your continued support. Best way to contact me is by email at btlkc84@gmail.com, KC_BTL84 on Twitter. I'll see you guys later.